So I really want somebody to bear with me here. In the Egyptian pyramid, in the Great Pyramid, if you decode the hieroglyphs, it says the divine family of nine of creation, 9 gods of creation. And they called them different things. It was Atum, Shu, Tefnut, Jebnut, Osiris, Isis, Set, and Nephthys. Now, we know that there are only 9 numbers in the universe. 0 and 9 are the infinity, before and after. And Tesla said, if you want to know the keys, 3, 6, and 9. So you take 3, 6, and 9 out of the equation. What do you have left? Okay, add the digital roots together. So you have 3, 6, and 9 left. 1 and 2, 4 and 5, 7 and 8. And then if you put those together, you get 9. So let's take it a little bit further. I said, where have I seen this before? So that, if you take everything that's left, the 0, the 3, 3, 9, 6, 6, 9, I said, I know this number. I've seen this number before. Well, if you take those and you try to create something out of that, you still get 6, 3, 6, 3, 6, which is 999. That is your three globes, 3 pillars, 3, whatever you want to call it, because you have the divinity up here. Now let's take this a little bit further. This is just electromagnetic stuff. These were just mirror images, Fibonacci numbers, pi-phi ratios. But so we get here, and this is pretty interesting. This is where I've seen this number before. This is the mapped out 2-dimensional version of the Rodin vortex mathematics and his understanding. So at the core here, you see the same exact thing. 3, 3, 9, 6, 6, 9, 3, 3, 9, and so on and so forth. And if you wrap this in a 3-dimensional shape, this is the mathematics of kind of the electromagnetic field. You also see this in the Tesla's original vortex, that all numbers in creation. Here we go again. I never knew this, by the way. This was years and years and years ago that I've had this. And you can see I should have wrote the numbers on here. And if you go down here, anyway, so the mirroring of what Tesla knew was everything is governed by 3, 6, and 9. So nothing gets out of here, it just alternates back and forth. Kind of like alternating current, with these sides crossing in between. And then as these, let's say this is a particle going around, as it crosses a barrier of 3, 6, and 9, it flips the polarity of the 6s and 3s. So if this is a negative, these are positives. You can do this with the Fibonacci sequences and get the root of these. This is the actual Fibonacci number for forever. But if you simplify it, it's just 1, 1, 3, 5, 8, 4, 2, 7, 1. And then the cycle repeats itself again and again. So why I saved this, if you look, I wrote life's numeric code. Did I know what this was? Absolutely not. I think we're getting there. So that's the duality and mirror balance. You also see this in the solfeggio frequencies. This is a 2-dimensional pictorial view. Again, this was years ago. I didn't understand what it was. And you can see the 3 geometric triangles, which would be the tetrahedron. Forget about this, 528, that was the center of the light spectrum. So if you're looking at a rainbow, everything has a nanometer spectrum of light. That's why plants are green. So it's 528 nanometers is what gets refracted from the internal part of your eye that allows you to see green. This is the solfeggio frequencies from the old Tibetan musical scale, and as you can see, these are the frequencies of that, and they're kind of mirrored back and forth. So you have starting at 3, 6, and 9, 4, 17, and then so on and so forth. And then if you add those together, you still have the 3, 6, 9. Now what this is are the tetrahedrons, or the tetrahedral shapes that are what creates the electromagnetic and gravitational forces holding an object in space-time. And I'll show you that in just a second. But so you get the 3 here. That's why the triangle is the root shape of creation, and the tetrahedron is similar to a pyramid, but instead of a box at the bottom being a square pyramid, it's a tetrahedron. These were just solfeggio corrections when I was doing protons and neutron calculations for the particles of figuring out just the subatomic particles. So here's another 2D representation of the center of a star in the creation. So if this was hydrogen and helium holding itself together, you'll see, this is a very crude drawing, I apologize. Ooh, losing my stuff here. Okay, so this is going to be your 9. I guess it's a nonagon. And you'll see your little triangles coming out from here. Triangle, triangle, triangle. And these are just various shapes of that. And this is going to be stretching space-time in the field, or whatever, the vacuum, call it whatever you want. And then this would actually get mirrored. So I only did one section here, but this is kind of like a 0 point, and then that gets mirrored to the other side and goes back. And then right here is where you would see this exact thing on the other side. Okay, so here's the shape of the solfeggio frequencies, and this is also known in the Walter Russell, Nikola Tesla, and anybody that does cymatics. And you'll also see that in the most beautiful geometry of DNA, lipid molecules, proteins, the things that make up biological life, and they create this harmonic balance of energy waves in fractal patterns. So Steve Jobs knew this when he figured out how to make 3-dimensional shapes in a digital reality. That's why we have 3-dimensional things and not 2-dimensional drawings like Disney did back in the day. So here's your 3-dimensional tetrahedrons. And I asked what this was the other day, but it really, so the points are your 3s, the line segments are 9s. Oh, I'm sorry, the line segments are your 6s. And then you have this geometry that would work similar to a spinner in quantum mechanics, to where it's not rooted in straight lines. This is like an energy field, to where these are the center points, but there is a probability of geometry in between these vacuum lines too. So most of what we see in the world is not visible, and it's to the point of beyond the atom, the protons, neutrons, quarks, we're getting to subatomic particles. So all of those exist in this energy field, and the environment around it is what is determining what happens inside of this to get to what it is. So this is going to be another. I'm just rolling through some old pages here, guys, see if I can put some stuff together for you. So this was I believe, if I'm not mistaken, mirrored sets of infinite numbers of cell division. So you kind of have the yin and the yang, the 6 and the 9, and then depending on how you get it together, there's an infinity. So this is the mirrored, again, kind of what I just showed you. You have all infinite possible solutions in quantum mechanics existing at the same time. And then you have the duality of the all possibilities existing at the same time, but those are the opposite of this side. So these are going to be either positive and negative, or the spin of a particle, and then you have the infinity symbol referring to you have to collapse the wave function or get. When I say observer, I don't mean necessarily that we are observing it, but God in the environment is observing it to create this force. These are just mirrored sequences. These are a numeric representation of the Tesla pattern that I was showing you before. So you'll see the mirrored duality, to where one will start a certain way and then it flips to the other side. This is the color spectrum and a color wheel. If you were in the center of a star creating its own nuclear forces, you would have a bright white light of creation, and then you have the colors going out from that. Now this is just a hexagon. Okay, no, Nope, that isn't again. So we get back to there, the white light, and then the colors that you have available in the frequency, resonance, vibration spectrum. So we're starting at your core colors of violet, red, green, and blue. White is everything. We're going back to the duality. Some of these go back to Benjamin Franklin's magic squares and number patterns, but I've been trying to figure out that one for a long time. So there's that. This is just a very not to scale inside of an atom. So you have the electron field, your protons and neutrons in the nucleus. This is your quarks. So you'll have an up, up, down, 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 up, depending on what it is. And there are a bunch of other things. You have the Higgs field, which creates mass within these things. The gluons kind of just hold some of these particles together. And then you have the tau, muon electrons. Then you have antiparticles, so electron, positron, and it goes all the way down the list. You guys can look into that yourself. This was just me speculating that neutrinos could be a information carrier because nothing stops them in the universe. There's no metal, there's no physical properties that stop them, which is why it's incredibly difficult for us to detect them. We have a couple detectors all over the world that are in subterranean, massively filled underwater detectors. So we're still traveling down that. I'm not going to get into the quantum computing and the particle connections. This was DNA. This is just the nucleotide pairs inside of the geometry. And I was trying to get the most simplified calculation of cell division in our DNA for understanding that. These were probably 10 years ago. Here's the Solfeggio frequencies and the Fibonacci phonoplane. I call it a phonoplane. It's kind of just repeating the same thing. Here's the same number, 33696639. So I think we can apply this to more in quantum mechanics and quantum computing than we currently are, because this is just a reoccurring factor over and over and over and over again. This was some of those a while back, figuring out the tetrahedron shapes. This was the kind of the light spectrum. This is the ether and light energy of all the elements of Earth. Definitely should get into those. Here's a visual on the rodent coil, depending on the matter. So that those numbers I showed you get wrapped around this vortex. And you could think of this as the North and South Pole, but it is quantum locking because it is not stagnant. And when you spin a magnet, similar to a superconductor, you're alternating the states, and then depending on the matter itself, whether or not it can catch up to the fluctuations in the field, you can get a suspended particle or a planet, depending on how big it is. Oh, how far are we going back here? Left and right spins of particles. This was back to magic squares. And I'm not sure I'm going to go down here. Here, I'm currently working on decoding some more with the pyramids and the pyramid text to put the correlations of those. Now these are evens and odd numbers. Again, just subdividing and breaking down things outside of their mirrors, so evens and odds. And then you get this internal code figuring out infinity and in what direction those numbers should be in. This was kind of an electromagnetic wave function. sorry I'm keeping you off camera at the moment. There's some information that I'm not going to share at the moment. But some of this might be helpful to somebody. Here's a graphic representation of the pi-phi's ratio within a circumference. If anybody needs to screenshot that one. This one is the other ratios. So you have this similar setup with the Schumann resonances of the Earth, where there is a polarity of positive, negative, that kind of bulges out at the equator, and then we have a harmonic frequency in the middle. So if you don't know what that means, you have this part of your brain that can hear frequencies one ear or the other, but within the hemisync, if you think this is a division of the brain, left and right ear, as they come in, this is, you can say MK Ultra, but they were looking into this. It's called hemisync, and the symmetries and hemispheres of the brain, where if you play two frequencies, you actually only get, your brain only hears one that's in the middle. It doesn't actually hear what's really happening. Here is, so this kind of relates to quantum tunneling too, if you guys are familiar, or if you want to learn more about that. This is just called a vortex, or a toroid. So this in here is actually going to be like a donut shape with a hole through the middle, and this is like an energetic field. So if you have an entangled particle with a spin state on either side, those are quantum tunneling through here. We don't quite understand how to keep this open in the vacuum. That's called a wormhole. I'm sure you've heard that in science fiction, but it's not science fiction. Here's kind of a graphic representation of the probabilities inside of the torus. So it's a lot more complicated than we could possibly give it credit for. Here's Rodin's mathematics inside the toroid, wrapping around. And this is, again, going all the way back to Egypt and everything in between for how the universe and matter is formed from the Big Bang to today. And I'll go off screen again. What do we have in here? We're not really going to go into that. This is inside of a cube. I'm not going to go into it at the moment, but there's two pyramids mirroring. We're going to get into Claude's sonnet. And I think that's about it, guys, as far as this video is going to go. Well, I'm gonna stop there for today. That was just I couldn't really believe the parallel of this with the group's 9 group of creations, or the 9 gods of creation in the divine family, with the fact that I know there's only 9 numbers in the universe, and everything is rooted off of that. So again, it doesn't matter if it's a fraction, decimal, you can do differential equations, modeling, probabilities. It doesn't matter what you do. It can be simplified down to 9 subcategories. So love you guys. Do what you will with that.